to motorable status. This question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. The member for Njoro, Honorable Charity Chepkwony, to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Labour and Social Protection, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the workers of the Economic Housing Group Limited, based in Naivasha, have not been paid their terminal dues and benefits as directed by the Employment and Labour Relations Court in Nairobi, via Rule number 28 of 2017, dated 8th November 2017. What measures has the ministry taken to resolve the complaints by the former workers and ensure that they receive their terminal dues and benefits from their former employer, Economic Housing Group Limited? Could the Cabinet Secretary ensure that the former workers of the group are paid their terminal dues and benefits owed to them as contained in their petition, which was granted by the Employment and Labour Relations Court on 6th July 2017? This question to be replied before the Departmental Committee on Labour and Social Welfare. Also to be asked is from the member of Kinango, Honorable Benjamin Tayari, to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a progress report on the efforts made to compensate the resident fishermen who were affected and displaced by the construction of the Dongo Kundu bypass in Kinango constituency, and who are categorized as persons affected by project PEPs? The other question will be, when will the ministry pay the said persons their compensation and also factor in the inflationary changes from the time they were displaced to date? This question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. The member of Mwingi Central, Honorable Gideon Mulyungi, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Justice Muturi, is entering the chambers right now, and I'll leave you for the live broadcasting that is in partnership with the KBC Channel 1. My name is Kamche Menza. Good afternoon.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of important tasks in this republic. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful manner as to promote your honor and glory, that one finds the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests are committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages.
Where's this message? There's a message. It will be communicated later.
Order number 4, petitions.
Well, I don't see this one. Where is it? Where is it? There's one. Where is it? This one. Yeah, but find out what is happening. Somebody is not doing their work. The member for Malava, Honorable Malulu Ijendi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a public petition number 011 of 2021 regarding compensation for family of the late Nancy Khalwari. I, the undersigned, on behalf of the family of the late Nancy Sarah Khalwari, draw the attention of the House to the following. 1, that Miss Nancy Sarah Khalwari was shot and killed by police officers on 22nd April 2012 while washing cloth on the balcony of her residence on the 5th floor of El Nino House in Dandora, Phase 4, Nairobi, during an attempt by the police to control a riotous mob nearby. 2, that following the incident, the uncle to Ms. Khalwari, and who also serves as the legal administrator of her estate, namely John Masotsi Wangusi, filed civil case number 2025 of 2013, seeking compensation for the wrongful killing. 3, that on 16th May 2019, the Milimani Commercial Court ruled that the police officers were culpable of gross negligence and awarded the family of the late Ms. Khalwari compensation totaling 3,325,200, and later issued decrees on 17th July 2019 with added interest that increased the total award to Kenya shillings 3,618,857.20. 4, that to date, the Attorney General has failed to honor and effect this payment despite numerous reminders by the deceased family. 5, that the late Ms. Khalwari, who was the sole breadwinner, left behind a son, Eric Otieno, and a mother, Elizabeth Nariaka, who is single, deaf and dumb, and who are now suffering from abject poverty and misery, with the young Eric being unable to join college due to lack of college fees. Number 6, that efforts to have the matter resolved by the Office of the Attorney General have not borne any fruit. Number 7, that the matters raised in this petition are not pending in any court of law in Kenya. Now, therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs, investigate the matter with a view to securing, in collaboration with the Office of the Attorney General, the urgent release of the compensation payment due to the family of the late Ms. Nancy Sarah Khalwari, so as to mitigate their ongoing suffering. And your petitioners will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Honorable Malulu Ijendi, your petition is directed which committee?
Justice and Legal Affairs.
Very well. The honourable members who are, please, can you take your seats? Honourable members, Pursuant to Standing Order 225, subsection 1, paragraph B, I wish to report to the House that I have received a petition from Dr. Machanga Mareko, National ID card number 6485106, seeking an amendment to the Firearms Act, Cap 114 of the laws of Kenya, to provide for mandatory mental examination as a precondition for acquiring a firearm license, among other proposals. Honourable members, the petitioner, a psychiatrist by profession and a firearms examiner at Kenyatta National Hospital, has highlighted several inadequacies in the Firearms Act. In particular, he argues that lack of provisions requiring all applicants for firearms licenses to undergo mandatory mental examination as a precondition for issuance of a firearm certificate might be a precursor to some of the instances of misuse of firearms by some licensed holders. The petitioner further contends that the Act does not clearly define what constitutes the legal use of a firearm. Consequently, he decries the fact that the lacuna exposes licensed firearm holders to criminal liability and or murder charges in the event that he/she occasions injury or death, even when the firearm is used for defense against the dangerous aggressor or aggressors, or on a humanitarian rescue mission. The petitioner is therefore praying that this House considers amending the Firearms Act to prescribe, among other things, that the use of a licensed firearm should not necessarily occasion a charge of murder or necessarily attract criminal prosecution of the licensed firearm holder, and to protect the firearms holders from adverse criminal record that may deny such legal firearm licensees certain privileges and services, and to provide for mandatory mental examination for all applicants of firearm licenses as a precondition for acquiring the license. Honourable members, having determined that the matters raised by the petitioner are well within the authority of this House, I order that pursuant to the provision standing under 227, this petition be committed to the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. The committee is required to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and to the petitioner in accordance with Standing Order 227, subsection 2. I thank you. I may allow for a few limited comments from the floor on both petitions. I'm assuming the people whose names appear on the intervention list desire to make some comments. The member for Imenti North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, regards the first petition by Honorable Mululu, Mr. Speaker, there is a tendency with the AG's department and the government that wherever the compensations are given by courts, they're never honored. So, Mr. Speaker, we should, the committee should look at all the compensations which are given against the government and should be cleared. On the second petition, Mr. Speaker, the petitioner is asking for mental tests of people who are getting guns. Mr. Speaker, I think, yes, we do need, because there are cases of some members of parliament who have even pulled guns on others, and that has not been good. So, Mr. Speaker, I support both petitions.
For Kimilili.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also want to support the petition raised by Honorable Malulu Injendi and make it very clear that we have very many Kenyans who are suffering because of lack of action from the Office of the Attorney General, Honorable Speaker, and it's high time that this committee looks into this matter to ensure that the Office of the Attorney General is an office that should serve Kenyans, and that they should hasten their action so that Kenyans cannot continue to wait in vain. Honorable Speaker, I support this petition.
Member for Central Imenti.
Mr. Speaker, I stand here to support the petition on the grounds that on a number of times firearms have been issued to people of unstable mind. unstable mind that when they get so much little booked, they just produced firearm. And that one, actually, it emborders to violence, and one may commit an offense which at all costs is going to be refunded as murder. But that one notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue is that when can this firearm be used properly in a way that one will not be saying that he has committed murder, yet the person has been exposed to danger? To me, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the petition that when it's going to be considered by the committee, let them look at the law in a way that when it is properly used, one should not be charged with murder, because murder is optimum a crime. In a way that when one is charged with murder, even though he is going to get bored, he faces a lot of challenges to secure the right bond and the right time. That's why you see sometimes people are locked in for quite a long time before board issues are being considered by the court. I support the motion, Mr. Speaker, sir, the petition. Thank you, sir.
Nominee 001.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And on the petition on the mental checkup, which is very important for those who are applying for licenses, Honorable Speaker, and I think the committee should look into even extend to be yearly mental checkup, because you know mental problem can be acquired along the way. So every year when the license is being renewed, Honorable Speaker, it should also be attached with mental checkup, Honorable Speaker. And again, we should prescribe when we can say that these firearms have been used properly, Honorable Speaker, in the case of defense, so that you are not charged of murder, yet it is actually manslaughter. It is actually you are defending yourself or defending members of your family, Honorable Speaker. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I seek your direction, Honorable Speaker, because sometimes I see members who are not wearing masks. Honorable Speaker, and we are in a red zone. And it is so painful to see somebody not wearing a mask and they are not vaccinated and they owe you some money. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Kadiani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this issue of firearms is really a sensitive matter. And having grown up in a military family, I know that if you make a mistake with the use of firearm, you cannot even apologize because the other person will be already dead. So I think it's important, that is a really important petition, that we look at ways by which we can confirm the mental stability of individuals who own firearms, who are given firearms. And I think that has to be done properly, because I think what is happening is in the recent past when they were renewing firearms and people getting permission to handle firearms, they were being told to go to Mathare. I think we have to be very clear exactly what kind of tests to be done, so that we are sure by the time the tests are done, the people who are handling firearms are safe for use. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support the petition.
Honorable Mbandi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to comment on this petition regarding the licensing of firearms. I think this country has no proper regulations in terms of handling on firearms. You don't even know whether the people who are being given firearms have been trained, because you need even some basic trainings. It's not just a matter of someone getting firearms. You don't even know who trained that person, whether he was trained by a thug, and then the person is handed as firearm, and then who are supposed to really qualify for possessing or owning firearms. You find someone becomes an MCA today, tomorrow is going to seek for license to become a firearm holder. You wonder what threat or danger is exposed to, which other Kenyans are not. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the committee needs to look at the whole questions of handling of firearms. It's not just this country that is having a problem with the firearm licensing, but when you look at what is happening internationally, even in the US, there's a lot of misuse of firearms, and it is a very contentious debate out there. Here, it may not be so contentious. I don't think there are so many Kenyans who would really feel bad if people are not allowed to, if you are to own a firearm, there should be serious, clear danger and threat to your life. Not any other imagination that yesterday I exchanged with Sankok, and Sankok does not possess any weapon apart from his other leg. And then now I want to appear like Sankok is such a threat to me, and I know he's so harmless. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we need to be so clear on this position of firearm. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, honour members, it's becoming very difficult. I think, member of community, maybe I should, for those members who may not know my mobile number, please look for it in the office, so that you can, we are allowed, these days we are encouraging that form of consultation, so that we avoid a lot of physical consultations. Honorable Wamalwa.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on the petition on the firearm licensing. Mr. Speaker, in this country to acquire a firearm, it is actually a very tedious and thorough process that you go through. But recently, Mr. Speaker, I think the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Interior, Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i, had issued some orders whereby anybody who was a firearm holder, you are supposed to go through the new process. And in the new process, Mr. Speaker, actually you must go through the mental process. You must be examined mentally, because when you have a firearm, you should be able to be tolerant. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, on the aspect of the criminality, on the issue of murder cases, it needs to be reviewed, because you have a firearm to protect yourself, Mr. Speaker. And many times people who have used it, you must demonstrate you are truly in danger. And that is what lacks the clarity in the Licensing Firearm Act. And we do support that. But given that this matter is under the Minister for Interior, I was just thinking loud whether, Mr. Speaker, that petition should be looked into between the Justice and Legal and the Security and the National Administration, because it falls under the Ministry of Interior when it comes to matters of licensing. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You see, the petitioner is seeking for an amendment to an existing piece of legislation, namely the Firearms Act, Chapter 114 of the laws of Kenya. So that's a matter perfectly for the Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. But of course, the petitioner is raising some serious issues here, because some of the youth who have been licensed, you have seen them, how they apply their firearms, anyhowly. So this petition actually raises some very serious issues, which I think the committee will be at liberty to consider, and including inviting him, who is a psychiatrist. And I think there's a point raised by the Honorable Sankok that the Honorable Sankok raised the issue of yearly or annual checkup, because you may have been given when you are 21, when you are of good behavior, and over the year, after about 5 years, you become so chaotic that you could easily you enjoy. You go to public places or bars, and the first thing you want to do is you want to go and remove your gun and place it there and say, give me one task. Now, I mean, that surely is very intimidating. We don't know whether you are protecting yourself. Now, you have placed the gun on the table and you're asking for some alcoholic beverage. Now, even the one serving you doesn't know how to deal with you. To first of all hammer your head or grab the gun and go with it. Honorable Iringo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity to comment on the two petitions. First, Mr. Speaker, the first petition by Honorable Ijedi, I support it, Mr. Speaker, because once the government, or once you are convicted of a crime by the government, the prosecution and the systems rush you so fast. But when it comes to you to receive, if you have won your case, it becomes a problem, Mr. Speaker. The judiciary and the Attorney General should also expedite. When they lose, they should expedite as when they win, Mr. Speaker. And for the firearms, Mr. Speaker, I concur, Mr. Speaker. The firearm is a very delicate item. It's a very delicate machine, which if it's in the wrong hands, it can cause a lot of havoc, Mr. Speaker. So whoever is licensed to carry a gun must at least be of very good sound mind. And I agree with the Honorable Sankok, because now we change our minds regularly. we need proper checkups. As we go for the checkup for our health in the wellness checkups every year, it should continue. When you are renewing your license, you get a checkup. Even a vehicle, before it is given a license to be on the road, it has to go under inspection first, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Honorable Olagwaluoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to comment on the petition by Honorable Injendi Mululu on the execution of judgments against the government. Mr. Speaker, the matter will come before our committee, just in legal affairs, and I will have a chance to look at it. But I think the House needs to appreciate that the hurdle against the AG discharging judgments is not that it does not wish to pay. It's because of the Government Proceedings Act. That Act, Mr. Speaker, prohibits any execution proceedings against the government. In the 10th Parliament, they brought a proposed amendment to that act to allow for restricted attachment of the government assets. The then Attorney General, Honorable Professor Gideon Mugai, and myself held meetings in our committee, and he said for that amendment to pass, he would have to consult the cabinet. The matter died at that time, Mr. Speaker. But I think now that this petition is coming before the committee, the time is ripe for us to review and see how best we can amend the Government Proceedings Act in a way that Kenyans can be served properly by the law. But if the Act remains the way it is, there's nothing the AG can do about it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from where?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to support the two petitions. They are coming at the right time, Honorable Speaker. The first one relates to compensation, Honorable Speaker. And it is true that there are many Kenyans who are suffering out there who were awarded some compensation, but up to now, they are yet to receive, Honorable Speaker. And I think it's a high time the AG makes a list or compiles a list of all those pending compensations, Mr. Speaker. On the second one, I think I support the idea of ensuring that whoever gets a license gets it in a strict manner, including the medical checkup and including regular checkups every year, Honorable Speaker, so that the law can also be clear on the usage of that licensed firearm. Because as it is, Honorable Speaker, those that possess it are at a risk of using it and being accused, Honorable Speaker. I support.
Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi, I know we had given you, because you are following the Honorable Kabinga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I want to comment on both petitions. On the first petition by Honorable Maluli Njendi on the lady who was shot in the balcony, that demonstrates the process of suing government demonstrates one of the limited opportunities for an ordinary citizen to seek redress from the big brother, big uncle called government. And I'm rather disappointed, in fact, because I didn't know, so to say, what Honorable Olagwaluoch has said, that in fact executing redress, financial redress on government is next to impossible. If that is the case, it really needs to be changed. There is also a fiscal aspect to it, that the office of the Attorney General not only refuses to pay, but loses so many cases. And sometimes the fines are a multiple of what the original fines would have been. So the loss at this occasion to the government is quite high. I think it's time that there was a clear look, not only from the legal point of view, but from a fiscal point of view. When times are tight, pay the fine on time, not 4 times the fine. That money could have been used for something else. A quick one on the second petition. I think that the House needs to come out clearly on these issues, and I agree, as I sometimes do with Honorable Sankok as well, that I think fairness and justice is what needs to reign. That's not always the case, and I think let us look at that one more time. The issue of the firearms, that is, that people should be entitled to this for self-defense. I don't know medical science, forget mental health science, but I don't know if it's not an assessment at a point in time, unless you have a pre-existing condition, and there are cases that occur down the road. Therefore, the issue of evaluation from time to time is actually very important. And I think that for people who are known, it doesn't matter what their social status is, to be somewhat unstable, including mentally unstable, they should not carry firearms in their lives. If we don't do that right, we will get them by virtue of our position and shall misuse it by virtue of our positions in the case of parliamentarians. Thank you.
Member for Endebess.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to contribute. Honorable Speaker, on the petition by Honorable Malulu Injendi, I think I would request that the committee looks at it wholly, because that might just be a tip of the iceberg. That other cases, similar cases, could be bending of compensation, and it would be good to look at it widely if there are other cases pending within the judiciary that have not been compensated, so that the Attorney General, all this can be compiled, and if possible, be cascaded to even the Committee of Budget, so that money can be allocated and this issue can be cleared. On the second issue, Honorable Speaker, I would want it not just to be limited to civilian licensed firearm holders, because we've also seen cases of police officers even shooting themselves or shooting their spouses or shooting each other on matters quarreling. So I think this is something that on matters mental health, I think this country needs to really re-examine it, because more often you will find that somebody is sent for mental assessment after he has committed a crime. Then you are now sending this person for mental assessment. Why can't we preempt that by having annual or even biannual mental assessments on everybody carrying any firearm, whether you are civilian or even soldiers who are carrying firearms? Because firearm in anybody holding it, you are human, and you are capable of having maybe even through drinking. We've seen cases where people have taken alcohol and decided to square it out because he is armed. So I think it is something that the committee should examine widely and see how best that can be done as they make the amendment. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, the last one, member for Rangwe.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I want to give my contribution on the second petition, especially when it comes to issuance of firearm license. There is a proposal that there is a psychiatric review. I think this is a matter that is already in practice. The petitioner is looking just for its anchorage in law. But I would propose that we not only look at psychiatric review, but it would be important that we also include the review of a clinical psychologist, because the accusations here would be on a matter that is of felony, and this is a very, very serious offense. And we also need to define in law what constitutes self-defense, because the way you have already indicated, there is a sense of power that these licensed firearm holders normally have, and there is normally a tendency to misbehave with a firearm. So it is important that this matter is considered in this House and at the committee level, and a report is given even for debate in the plenary. And we come up with a very strong law that regulates this area. This particular amendment would be important, especially for securing lives. But at times also the licensed firearm holders are such that they have a firearm, but they also in fear of being charged with murder. And at times they may find themselves in a position where they need to defend the lives of others. So this is a very good petition to be brought in the floor of the House at this particular time, and it needs to be looked at seriously. Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker.
Well, the two petitions are committed to the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. If a member for Suna West could make his way in and take a seat. The member making his way, why don't you just sit? Yes. Honour members, I indicated that I was going to make this, deliver this message from the President. I wish to report to the House that I have received a message from His Excellency the President conveying his nomination of Dr. Jamlek Muturi John, PhD, and Mr. Tom Alfred Otieno Oyucho for appointment as a chairperson and a member of the Teacher Service Commission, respectively. Secretary, the President, having exercised his powers under Article 250, Clause 2, Paragraph B of the Constitution, as read together with Section 8, Subsection 7 of the Teacher Service Commission Act Number 20 of 2012, is now seeking the approval of the National Assembly on the appointment of the two persons as chairperson and member, respectively, of the Teacher Service Commission. Honourable members, Standing Order 45 requires that upon receipt of notice of nomination for appointment of a person to such office, the nomination shall stand committed to the relevant departmental committee of the House for consideration. Further, Section 8, Subsection 8 of the Teacher Service Commission Act Number 20 of 2012 requires the National Assembly to either approve or reject the nominees to the positions within 21 days of its sittings. In this regard, honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of the same law and paragraph 3 of the Standing Order number 42 relating to messages from the President, I hereby refer the message together with the curriculum vitae of the two nominees to the Departmental Committee on Education and Research for the committee to undertake the necessary approval hearings. The committee should notify the nominees and the general public of the time and place for holding the approval hearings, and upon conclusion of the hearings, table their report in the House in good time to enable the House to consider the matter within the stipulated timelines. I thank you, members. Next one.
Order number 5, papers.
Leader of Majority? Nothing. Chairperson, Committee on Regional Integration. The Honorable Ali Wario.
I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, March 30, 2021. Reports of the Select Committee on Regional Integration on its consideration of the East African Legislative Assemblies. Reports. 1. The Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution on the oversight activities on the proliferation of small arms and light weapons in the East African region. 2. The Committee on Agriculture, Tourism and Natural Resources on the oversight activity on the performance of tourism sector in the region, 9th to 12th September 2019. 3rd, the Committee on Accounts on its oversight activity on the Lake Victoria Basin Commission to assess the status of implementation of the Assembly's recommendation on the EAC audited accounts. 4th, the Committee on General Purpose on the oversight activity to assess the level of preparedness of the partner states in the management of Ebola and dengue fever epidemics. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the Committee on General Purpose on the petition from the East African Civil Society Organization Forum, ESCOF, on the matters of crucial importance to the community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The Chairman, Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, March 30, 2021, afternoon sitting. Report of the Departmental Committee on Communication and Information and Innovation on its consideration of a petition regarding removal from office of Ms. Tabitha Muthemi as a member of the Media Council of Kenya. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28.4, this House resolves to further alter its calendar, regular sessions for the 5th session, 2021, as adopted on Wednesday, February the 10th, 2021, and amended on Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, so as to A, suspend its sitting of Tuesday evening, March 30th, 2021, B, suspend all its ordinary sittings from Thursday, 1st of April 2021 to Thursday, 29th of April 2021, and C, resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, the 4th of May 2021 at 2:30 p.m. to continue with the first part of the session. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Just a notice.
Next, the Chairman, Departmental Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. Honourable members, I do appreciate that those of you who are historians will recall a famous statement by the late Professor Ali Mazrui when he stated that as independence approached, the term East Africa shrank in meaning. It looks to me that as the year 2022 approaches, the quorum in the House is diminishing in meaning. So why don't you just, because this is just notice, yes. Why don't you'll have an opportunity to say whatever it is you want to say. So there's no point to start shouting and doing it. I mean, it's the decorum. The Honorable Christopher Umlele.
I thought you had given me some time to move to give notice.
Honorable Kisang.
Yes.
You haven't finished.
No, you have not even started.
Okay, proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that taking into consideration the findings of the Departmental Committee on Communication, Innovation in its report on the consideration of a petition regarding removal from office of Ms. Thabitha Muthemi as a member of the Media Council of Kenya, laid on the table of the House today, March 30th in the afternoon, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 14.3 of the Media Council Act 2013, this House recommends the removal of Ms. Thabitha Muthemi as a member of the Media Council of Kenya. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Well, I'm informed that the Honorable Umlele is not in the House, so we skip his notice. Move to the next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
First segment on questions. First question by the Honorable John Bundy, leader of the Minority Party.
First question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask question number 141 of 2021 on the order paper, and this is pursuant to Standing Order number 42A5. And Mr. Speaker, this question goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that a number of contractors awarded various contracts across the country to improve roads to bitumen standards have stopped works due to non-payment, and in particular, the contractor who was awarded the Mbita Sindo Magunga Gulumuk Road in Homa Bay County where the construction has stalled due to failure by the ministry to make full advance payments for mobilization? And number 2, what measures is the ministry undertaking to ensure that construction of the Mbita Sindoma Gunga Golomok Road is carried out expeditiously and completed within the stipulated period captured by the contract? And 3, what immediate intervention measures is the ministry putting in place to ensure that the said road, which is currently in a deplorable state, is restored to motorable status? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question will be replied to before the Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Next question by the member for Njoro, Honorable Charity Chepkwony. Member for Njoro. Member for Njoro, the Honorable Chepkwony, Charity Kadhambi. Next question by the member for Kinango, the Honorable Tayari Benjamin. Remember, when you have questions, you press your intervention button. Maybe you can use the dispatch box. Then you are in some place that. Now just come in front. You know, as an elected leader, don't fear people seeing you in full.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 095 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a progress report on the efforts made to compensate the resident fishermen who were affected and displaced by the construction of the Dongo Kundu bypass in Kinango constituency, and who are categorized as persons affected by project? 2. When will the ministry pay the said persons their compensation and also factor in the inflationary charges from the time they were displaced to date? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To be replied to before the Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. Next question by the member for Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 104 of 2021 in the order paper. And the question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the policy guidelines and the criteria used during identification of areas to be connected with electricity in the country? Number 2, could the CS provide a list of areas connected with electricity since 2017 to date in Mwingi Central constituency, indicating the identity of the contracted farms, the contract sum, the dates of commencement and completion, number of transformers installed, and those which became 40 thereafter? Number 2, could the CS give an indication when the areas not connected to electricity so far in Mwingi Central constituency will be connected, and when the 40 transformers will be replaced? Number 5, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that all areas in Mwingi Central constituency are connected with electricity through the national grid? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Except that the member for Mwingi Central what you have read as number 5 is actually number 4, and what you read as number 3 at number 2 is actually number 3. But that will be, if you check in the answer, that's what you have captured, because I was listening to you. But no problem, the question will be replied before the Committee on Energy.
Okay.
The next by the member for North Imenti, Honorable Dawood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask question number 110 of 2021 to the Minister, Cabinet Secretary for Wildlife and Tourism. Mr. Speaker, I would want to ask the first question is, what is the status of compensation of Ms. Sacinta Kairudi Kibiti of ID number 2536601, whose spouse, the late Abel Kibiti of ID 7769644 of Post Office Box 16 87-600200 Meru, was killed by an elephant in Meitei location of Bori Sub-County on the 5th of May 2016. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, when will the claims of all other persons affected by human-wildlife conflicts in Nordimenti constituency and who lodged their claims for compensation from 2013 to date be compensated? Mr. Speaker, the third one is, what steps has the ministry taken to deter wildlife from invading and straying into farms and houses of residents living close to parks, reserves, and conservancies, causing death and destructions in Nordimenti constituency? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question will be replied to before the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Next question is by the member for Lamu, who has requested for deferment of the question. The request is accident 2, question deferred. Next by the member for Nakuru Town East, Honorable Gekaria.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 115 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Culture and Arts. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide names of football teams under the Kenya Premier League that are sponsored by the betting and lottery companies in the country and the amounts of sponsorship in respect of each team or club? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary further confirm whether there are any club officials, players and betting companies who have been accused of engaging in match fixing under the Kenya Premier League? And 3, what action has the ministry taken on all those involved in match fixing in the country, including carrying out investigation on match fixing and ensure that those engaging in such vices are punished? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Sports, Culture and Tourism. Next question by the member for Mwingi North, the Honorable Paul Zengu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I raise to make intention to withdraw that question because I have really realized, Mr. Speaker, that the content that I intended to communicate has been changed and interfered with, and I seek your guidance, Mr. Speaker, whether actually the table office must always change what has been proposed by the honorable members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, what are you saying? You're saying the question as framed is not what you intended to ask.
Exactly. The content is very different, Mr. Speaker.
Maybe, but then you should sit with them when they are drafting so that you see whether they...
Mr. Speaker, yes, it's true, but I just came from up country just to realize that whatever is in the order paper is not what I had proposed. Thank you.
So then the question is taken out of the order paper,
yes,
to allow you to go and reframe it.
Yes,
as you
Mr.
desire.
Speaker. Thank you.
Very well. Next, the member for Sirisia, the Honorable Major Aluke, who has requested that the question be asked on his behalf by the Honorable Dr. Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I ask question number 119/2021 on behalf of the member for Sirisia, the Honorable Major Retired John Waluke, to the Cabinet Secretary for Energy. 1, what plans has the ministry put in place to address the high cost of power and also the occasional power outages that have characterized the energy subsector in the country, reportedly forcing some of the large manufacturers who account for approximately 54.8% of the Kenya Power and Lighting Company sales revenue to relocate to neighboring countries. 2, what steps has the ministry taken to address the national grid defects arising from climate change and other adverse environmental occurrences in the country? 3, what impact has climate change and other adverse environmental occurrences had on the national power supply and revenue collection, considering that companies seeking to decentralize access to energy have been advised to invest in their own power generations? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
To be replied before the Departmental Committee on Energy. Next question by the member for Changamwe, Honorable Mwinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 121 of 2021, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary provide details on the number of national identity cards issued in each constituency in the last 5 years, indicating the number of applications received and those rejected? Number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary further provide information on the number of national identity cards that have been collected against those that are uncollected, and what measures has been put in place to ensure all processed national identity cards are collected? Number 3, what are the standard timelines for processing a single national identity card once an application is made, and what are the causes of delays in processing of the same? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question to be replied to before the Committee on Administration and National Security. Next question by the member for Rulambi, the Honorable Bishop Titus Hamala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 125 of 2021. What measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that power transformers requested in 2019 for the following areas: Sendo, Emabanga, Emuraka, Eshtoto, Ematetie, Dianungu, Shivakala, Musasala, Mshikoni areas in Lurambi constituency are delivered and installed, and by when? Roman 2, what plan is the ministry taking to ensure that power transformers installed in 2018 in the following areas: Machina, Echiviywa, Eshimichini, Ebusanganga, Inzakula areas in Lurambi constituency are put into use, considering that they are not utilized? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Energy. The next question by the member for Baringo Central, the Honorable Joshua Kandie.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 127 of 2021, and this goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Fiscal Planning. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary consider establishing a lands registry in Baringo County so as to effectively serve the high number of people without title deeds, particularly in Tenges Ward, Emom location, and El Patay areas? 2, could the Cabinet Secretary also urgently post a registrar and other lands personnel in Baringo Central constituency and ensure that the residents without title deeds within Tenges Ward, Emom location, and El Patay areas receive them expeditiously upon application? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question will be replied before the Committee on Lands. Next by the nominated member, Gideon Keter. Honorable Gideon Keter.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 130 of 2021 to ask the Cabinet Secretary for ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, that could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the media sector in the country is operating casino disguised as an advertisement while practicing gambling throughout their broadcast programming? Could the Cabinet Secretary further explain the effect the gambling in the media sector on the citizen, and in particular the youth and the learners in colleges and universities, and what measures the ministry put in place to ensure regulations on the broadcasting of gambling materials by the media? Thank you.
I'll be replying to before the Committee on Communication, Information and Innovation. Next question by the member for Uriri, the number Mark Nyamita. The number Mark Nyamita. Member for, can you give him?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question 138 of 2021, and the question is directed to the Teacher Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, the question is, when will the Teacher Service Commission process and pay gratuity claim and benefits lodged by the beneficiaries of the late Mrs. Jane Namuyemba Wawire, TSC number 197147, who passed on the 14th of November, the year 2015. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There is a reply to be made by the Teacher Service Commission. Next question by the member for Tharaka, Honorable Murugara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask question number 139 of 2021. And my question is to the Cabinet Secretary for Land and Fiscal Planning. Number one, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the circumstances that led to the stalling of land adjudication process in Turema and the Karachi locations in the Turema division, and also in Gekingo, Viite, and Torone locations in the Mukodhima division of Tharaka constituency? Number two, what steps is the ministry taking to revive the land adjudication process in the said areas which are stalled for over 5 years? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question to be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Next question by the member for Meru County, the Honorable Bishop Kawera Mwangaza.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question number 140 of 2021 in the order paper goes directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife. One, what steps is the ministry taking to resolve human-wildlife conflicts in Meru County, especially conflicts caused by elephants that have destroyed crops, property, and endangered the lives of the residents, and in particular, the recent incident in Choroiboro village, Ruirero Arawand, Bore sub-county, where even a child was trampled by an elephant. Number two, when will the ministry pay compensation to the families of the victims of human-wildlife conflicts in Meru County? Number three, could the ministry provide a list of number of residents of Meru County who have been compensated so far, and how long will it take to compensate the remaining victims? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
To be replied to before the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Next question by the member for Tinderet, Honorable Meli.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to ask question number 142 of 2021 to the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. Honorable Speaker, my question is, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the action the ministry is taking to ensure the workers of Chemelil and Moroni sugar companies are paid their salaries and other dues which have not been paid since 2018 to date? Two, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the status of operations of the said two factories with regard to operational conditions and financial status in terms of loans, money owed to farmers, and financial flows? 3, could the Cabinet Secretary explain measures the Ministry is undertaking to ensure that the said factories are rehabilitated and made to operate optimally, considering that over 1 million farmers and other persons depend on them directly or indirectly? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Question to be replied to before the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. Next question by the member for Kilome, the Honorable Thaddeus Nzambia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question 143, 2021. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the actions the Ministry is taking to revive the Sultanahmud, Q and Uru railway stations along the Mombasa Road, MGR and SGR route to enhance transport and improve economy and the ways of doing business in Kilome constituency? Roman 2, what measures is the Ministry putting in place to restore the 3 railway stations, considering the rise in transport services demand within the constituency attributable to recent developments, including the upcoming of Konza Techno City? What plans does the Ministry have to provide express passenger train stopovers services at Sultanahmud, Q and Uru stations in the Kilome constituency? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question will be replied before the Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing. For the second time, question number 084, member for Joro. For the second time, member for Joro. But you are moving from one mic to the other.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this chance to ask question number 084, 2021. And my question, Mr. Speaker, sir, is directed to the CS, the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the workers of Economic Housing Group Limited, based in Naivasha, have not been paid their terminal dues and benefits, and as directed by the Employment and Labor Relations Court in Nakuru by the ruling number 28 of 2017, dated 8th November 2017. Roman 2, what measures has the Ministry taken to resolve the complaints by the former workers and ensure that they receive their terminal dues and the benefit from their former employer, Economic Housing Group Limited? And number Roman 3, could the Cabinet Secretary ensure that the former workers of the group are paid their terminal dues and benefit owed by them as contained in their petition, which was granted by the Employment and Labor Relations Court 6th July 2017? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for that chance.
For the benefit of both yourself and other members, when your question is read for a second time, you begin by, first of all, apologizing to the House for coming late. That is the normal way it happens all over the world. But the question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. Next segment is on statements. The member for Dadaab, Honorable Dr. Duale Dahir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I request for a statement on imminent closure of refugee camps in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 44, subsection 2C, I wish to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding the imminent closure of refugee camps in Kenya, and in particular, the Dadaab refugee camp. Honorable Speaker, the alleged issuance of a 14-day ultimatum to formulate a plan on the closure of the Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps by the government is against the 1951 Refugee Convention and 1967 protocols in regard to legal refugee protection. The Dadaab and Kakuma refugee camps in northern Kenya host more than 410,000 people. Honorable Speaker, it's notable that Kenya has earned a lot of respect internationally for its hosting and continued reception of refugees. The fast-tracking of closure of refugee camps is in a disorderly manner without following international acceptable protocols in itself is retrogressive, particularly during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Honorable Speaker, it's against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following. Roman 1, what measures is the government undertaking to resolve double registration in refugee camps, considering that closure of the Dadaab refugee camp cannot be achieved until this matter is dealt with. Roman 2, could the government consider giving citizenship to persons and children who were born as a result of intermarriages between Kenyan citizens and refugees as provided for in the Constitution of Kenya? Roman 3, what measures is the government undertaking to ensure that the Comprehensive Refugee Response Framework and the Global Compact Agreement signed by the government is adhered and followed to the letter, considering that closure of the refugee camps may be against the commitment under the CRRF agreement and the international obligation as Kenya is a member state of the international community? I thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Chair, Administration and National Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've heard the honorable member from Dadaab. The statement will be responded to maybe after we come back to the House, which I don't know the date, but we'll use this time to work with the Interior so that we can respond to the member. But we'll respond after we come back to the House. Thank you.
Very well. Yeah. No, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. But it can be
within 2 weeks.
Within 2 weeks.
Yes.
Very well.
Thank you.
Don't you? She has said 2 weeks. The next request by the member for South Imenti, Kaduri Murungi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to provisions of the Standing Order 44.2c, I seek to request a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing regarding facilitation of university and college students during partial cessation of movement and increased fare by public transport subsector. Honorable Speaker, on the 26th March 2021, the President announced partial lockdown, cessation, and instituted new curfew measures to start from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. in 5 counties, namely Nairobi, Kiambu, Nakuru, Machakos, and Kajiado counties, as the country is experiencing a third wave of the deadly virus. The President also ordered an immediate suspension of all face-to-face teaching, which includes colleges and universities, with the exception of students currently taking exams. Honorable Speaker, the lockdown took effect almost immediately, making people rush to meet the deadline set. For instance, all colleges and universities were directed to close down indefinitely, and traveling times for those within or without the 5 counties under lockdown was extended to 8 p.m. on a Sunday. Due to travel rush to be the deadlines, matatu operators have hiked fares up to 500%, and this has occasioned many students to get stranded in their respective campuses and others in towns, since they have been ordered to move out of the campuses with immediate effect. Honorable Speaker, it is on this account that I seek for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Transport, Public Works and Housing on the following. Number 1, could the government consider giving university and college students more time to organize their travel and by extension give them clear passage to their home counties? Number 2, could the ministry intervene and direct the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, to act with speed and lay non-log matatu circles who are hiking fares across the country and consider suspending their operating licenses to stem the vice. This statement is done by Kaduri Murunge, a member for Southiment. Mr. Speaker, as you mark this statement to the responsible committee, I kindly seek your indulgence that, Mr. Speaker, since these students are already suffering and are out there in the streets, others in the villages where the universities are threatened, how fast, Mr. Speaker, this committee, the chair of the committee, can be able to really intervene so that we save the poor students who are aimlessly roaming in the universities, especially out of the campuses, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, the reason why I did this statement, from Kisumu to Nairobi, these students were charged less than the 4,500 shillings. And, Mr. Speaker, many members in this House can attest to me and can concur with me that maybe they're in contact with their students and they are really suffering. Actually, students are literally requesting for fares from us. And, Mr. Speaker, you know, we are humbly remunerated. So we cannot afford to pay fares for every student in this country. So, Mr. Speaker, as you mark this statement, kindly let the chair also save the students by giving this statement 24 hours attention so that, Mr. Speaker, these students can really be rescued. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Even in ordinary circumstances, we don't sit on Wednesdays. So I don't know, even if he was to do it in 24 hours, then he would have to come and read it to himself. The chair of the committee is here, the Honorable Kosing. How soon do you think you can issue the statement?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, my colleague, for that very fundamental question. Honorable Speaker, realistically, I can bring the statement in a week without anticipating what happens. But, Honorable Speaker, the message will be in the ministry within the next, I would say, 2 hours or 3 hours. The message will be in the ministry. And I'm very certain action is going to be taken from that 2 hours or so, Honorable Speaker. I thank you.
You hear the message will be with the ministry in the next 2 hours. Yes, proactive chair. The next request is by the member for Nyatike, the Honorable Tom Odege.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to request for a statement on border conflicts in Otati and Thimlich areas of Nyatike constituency. Honorable Speaker, you will protect me because the minority leader is having interest in this, and I'm seeing him carrying his hand. Please allow me to finish.
Let him read his request. Then.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2c, I seek to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding border conflicts in Otati area along Migori County and Homa Bay County, along the borders of Nyatike and Uriri constituencies within Migori County. Honorable Speaker, there have been persistent fights and conflicts between the residents living in Otati area and along the borders of Migori and Homa Bay counties. The latest conflicts was on Friday, 8th January 2021, and tension has continued to date, which has greatly affected the market days in Otati area and has led to loss of livelihoods. Further, there have been conflicts in the recent past around the border of Uriri and Nyatike constituencies at Thimlich area. Honorable Speaker, it is against this backdrop that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following. What are the causes of increased inter-county border conflicts in Otati area along Migori and Homa Bay counties? What measures has the ministry undertaken to demarcate the Migori County boundaries at Otati sub-location? Could the ministry consider having a police post at Thimlich area? And what plans the ministry has put in place for long-term and sustainable peace in this area? Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to clarify one thing. Honorable Mbadi is a beneficiary of Nyatike land, and that's why it's very It's very serious. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's a land grabber.
Now, honor members, the member for Nyatike appears to have aroused quite some issue. The Honorable John Bandy has already placed an intervention. Let me hear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to say that issues boundaries are very emotive. These are very emotive issues that should be treated with a lot of care and soberness, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the MP for Nyatike, first, I am sure you didn't hear, but he claimed as he was finishing the request for his statement that I'm a beneficiary of the land of Nyatike people. Mr. Speaker, first I want to say categorically that there is no conflict around Otati area. Mr. Speaker, the MP for Nyatike comes from about 20 kilometers, 25 away from Otati. My home is 3 kilometers to Otati. So he cannot claim that he knows what is happening at Otati more than I do. There is no conflict. The people of Karungu and Gwasi, Mr. Speaker, the people of Gwasi who resides in Omabe and the people of Otati, Karungu who resides in Nyatike have lived harmoniously over the years, Mr. Speaker. We intermarry, we do all our things together. Otati is where there is cattle market, and that cattle market is right inside my constituency, and nobody can take it away. That land belongs to Gwasi, and there is nothing even to investigate. The committee has enough work to do, not to go and look at issues of ego, Mr. Speaker. We have been in this Bunge Parliament with the former MP, Eddie Kanyanga. We never had any problem. But you know the current MP, the mother that comes from my constituency, and he doesn't respect my constituency, Mr. Speaker. And he's Okewa. His mother comes from our place, Mr. Speaker. Now I realize that your relatives should not ever lead in the neighboring constituency because there is no respect, Mr. Speaker. There is nothing to investigate about this matter. I want to urge the committee to disregard this request. There is no dispute between Nyatike people and Soba people. We have lived harmoniously. That is why even his mother was married in that Nyatike, Mr. Speaker, because we are friends. So now he's claiming that now that there is a problem between Soba people and Karungu people. What problem do we have? That is where I buy even chicken to eat. That's where I buy mboga to eat. That's where I buy everything. In fact, that is the closest market from my home. Then he comes several kilometers away to come and cause disharmony between two groups of people who have been living without any problem. Mr. Speaker, if he's looking for votes, he should not use Otati to look for votes, Mr. Speaker. He's been my friend, but now he's stepping on live wire. He's completely stepping on live wire, Mr. Speaker. That is something that I cannot accept. You cannot even take an inch, not an inch from Suba. It will not work, Mr. Speaker. You should know that, Mr.
Now this one now, the other one, is the other one also live? Let me hear another live wire. Honorable Junet.
Mr. Speaker, I don't want to contradict my party chairman and my leader. But Mr. Speaker, one thing I agree with the party chair is that in his constituency, at his home, I've visited many times to pay homage, Mr. Speaker. The shopping center where he buys things from, because there are no shopping center in his place, is in Nyatike, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Is it Nyatike, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, many times, Mr. Speaker, many times I have visited him, Mr. Speaker. I have waited for lunch. I have waited for lunch, Mr. Speaker, for 4 hours. When I asked him the question, he told me, the food is coming from Karungu, just wait. It is still on a bicycle. It is arriving. Mr. Speaker, there are no shopping centers there. Mr. Speaker, this issue the MP Funyatika has raised, Mr. Speaker, is very important. And with due respect, is a matter that the committee must look into, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are people in Otati where he's talking about who are being served in Nyatika constituency, Mr. Speaker, by getting bursary. Mr. Speaker, the MP is giving them bursary there. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware of that. He has shared with me. Mr. Speaker, my party chairman is becoming the famous Jackson Angaine. He is trying to push the boundary every day inside. I have Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that the committee must look into. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Migori County, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Migori County, Mr. Speaker, our land has been grabbed by Homa Bay County, Mr. Speaker, and we want none other than GSU to be deployed there, Mr. Speaker, to help us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Migori County. Now it looks like...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And
the more we hear those voices, the more I'm getting convinced that there is need for the committee to bring a response.
Thank you,
let's hear
Mr.
from the member for Migori.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. And sir, I plead in advance that you'll protect me from my chairman here, because the way he's looking at me is suspicious and dangerous. I just wanted to support my MP there. This is the man who takes care of the constituency where my forefathers are buried. And why I think there is a need to investigate this boundary and to make record straight, I am the county MP of Migori County. And I have received delegations from Otati coming even to my home to look for help. So if the MP of Suba is alleging that Otati is in his constituency, then he needs to explain further to this House why he's not taking care of his people. And I know that Otati is in Karungu, which is part of Nyatike, and these disputes which about the Soko, it is actually the big area we are talking about is in Migori County, and Market is part of Migori County, and I think Mr. Speaker, what the MP has raised here is valid, and we need that committee to do proper investigation so that we can settle this matter once and for all. Because we cannot spend Migori resources on the people of Otati, and yet they claim to be from Soba. I think that is not right. And Mr. Speaker, with that, I want my chairman here to understand that the fact that they have been pushing into our land does not mean that it really belongs to them. So, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Member for Suba North. This is another live wire, is it?
Mr. Speaker, I will not be a live wire today.
It is hot.
Or I'm going to be a live wire on another level. Mr. Speaker, I'm speaking conscious of the fact that the member who has raised this issue is our in-law, who was married in my village in Kolo, Kanyala, in Rusinga Island. Yes, Mr. Speaker. And also very conscious that Honorable John Mbadi is the chairman of our party, and also a Suba like myself. And having said so, Mr. Speaker, you can hear voices coming from Migori. That one we will not talk about. We will just tell you we are Subas. If you want to know whether they are Luos or not, go and read your history. That's not for me to say. All I can tell you is I am Suba. My father is Suba, my mother is Luo. And I represent both. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say, Mr. Speaker, is that if you actually see the way people are speaking very passionately, Honorable Junet, who is also a leader in our party, Honorable Pamela, and the member who has spoken, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Dege, they are all from Migori County. Mr. Speaker, this can very quickly and easily degenerate to a war between Homa Bay and Migori County, because then I can decide to defend Homa Bay County, and my chairman has on the issue of attack on Migori County. Mr. Speaker, speaking from experience, we had a similar situation with my brother, Honorable Mbadi, in the first Parliament, where I am the one who was considered the aggressor. And he knows why it was not Mbadi who raised it, I'm the one who raised it. And I want to say, in hindsight, Mr. Speaker, these are very emotive issues that we should not be playing with on the floor of the House. As members, we can make it a joke and laugh here, but the people who are listening on the ground do not take these issues lightly. Before you know it, this will start into a war between Atike and Suba South, and very soon it will be a war between Migori and Homa Bay County. And we cannot have such things. And I want to call the leaders who are speaking to order as a member of ODM party, that if they are not able to deal with the leadership, leave it for people like me to deal with. These are issues that you should be dealing with in the House as ODM. You do not come and clean your dirty linen before the public. You are trying to show people. We know that Baba has been sick, but he's still in charge. So don't come and show people here that you can misuse and behave on behalf of ODM in front of people here. Go and sort out those issues in the House. Don't embarrass the ODM in the floor of the House. Those are not issues you bring before the floor of the House. When you've gone to the party and you are not able to deal with them, bring them before the House. But you cannot bring issues that we can deal with outside the House and embarrass the party here. Shame on you.
Our guard as a Senate. We all know what happened. Within a few months, this country had evolved several billionaires benefiting from monies that had been directed to the containment of this pandemic. Madam Speaker, it would have been a dereliction of duty if, as the Senate, we stopped meetings of committees and plenary at a time that we are talking of sourcing for more funds to go into the containment of this pandemic. So, Madam Speaker, I am happy that committees will continue to meet, and I want to urge the committees that will meet, and especially committees that will be dealing with the containment of this pandemic. That, Madam Speaker, we must be told in very clear terms how much money is being directed into the fight against this coronavirus, the source of that money, and especially, Madam Speaker, in the counties. You know, counties have been receiving funds to fight coronavirus. There are some counties, Madam Speaker, that I'm told are directing these monies into funny uses. The other day I was reading that my own county, Kitui County, they are using the funds to produce tomato paste. And I'm wondering, what has tomato paste to do with the containment of the spread of the pandemic? So, Madam Speaker, counties must be held to account. And if the Senate committees were to go on recess or stop meetings, Madam Speaker, it will be very, very difficult for us to hold the governors to account. So both the national executives and the county executives must be held to account by committees of the Senate on how they spent money meant for the containment of the spread of coronavirus. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and that's my submission.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Locorio Petronila Were.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the amendment to the motion to alter the Senate sittings. And Madam Speaker, you are aware that I had already proposed the idea of a hybrid sitting so that we continue working as the legislature of this country, because, Madam Speaker, we are representatives of the people, and people are looking upon us for directions on certain issues. People are more trusting of the members of parliament than they are of the executive. So it was important, Madam Speaker, that we continue with these sittings, even if it is just committee sittings virtually, or where necessary have physical meetings, as is envisaged in the amendment by Senator Ochilo. Madam Speaker, it is important that we continue these sittings because we have Kenyans of goodwill who are making donations, for example, to our county hospitals and even national hospitals. Who is going to check to ensure that these donations are well received and well utilized, and make sure that the executive does indeed facilitate the process of receiving these donations to help Kenyans who are facing this pandemic. So, Madam Speaker, I thank you and I support the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ndwiga, Peter Njeru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the motion as amended, for both the corridor and also the sittings of the Senate committees. Madam Speaker, some of our committees have a full
I see a point of order from the majority leader.
Madam Speaker, and I don't want to interrupt my good friend, but I think the clarity needs to be made to the Mheshimiwa, to the Senator. He is now debating the motion as amended, when he should actually be now debating the amendment only. I just wanted to make that clarity, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Leader. I was about to stop him actually because I was wondering why he was pressing the stop we have amended.
Thank you.
Members, we are dealing with the amendment. So let's deal with the amendment, finish with the amendment, then we go back to the motion as amended. That's why I was saying don't go beyond 5 minutes, please. Just if you support, you support. And if we can move faster so that we dispose that one off, then we come back to the amended version.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
For a longer time. Senator Murkomen.
If members are in agreement, Madam Speaker, we can allow the Senator Ndwiga to finish, and then you put a vote on the amendment, so that people just contribute. Because of the time we have is 4, now we debate the motion. And if Senator Ndwiga is more comfortable contributing to the motion as a whole, we can put the vote first, and then you can continue.
Your proposal is good, except it's coming from the wrong person. Normally, it is the person who has not spoken who should be giving that kind of proposal.
You cannot.
So
I did not. I know, Madam Speaker, the rules.
Yes.
I only made a proposal. I didn't move a motion. It's unless someone moves that the mover be now. I was not moving it.
Yeah, please whisper to your neighbor now, so that they can do the move. But it's a good proposal, Senator Ndwiga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, yes, I want to support the amendment because one of the reasons I support the amendment, Mr. Speaker, and I just started saying, is that some of the committees of this House have an overflowing entry, and there's so much business that needs to be done. And if we are going to avoid the work of committees totally, Madam Speaker, that would be bad for both the House and the committees. Madam Speaker, I do support the amendment, and I hope, Madam Speaker, that you also see me, because I am still pressed to contribute for the main motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Cherarke, I see some intervention from you.
Madam Speaker, I move that the mover be called to reply. Then we can move to the main motion. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, a proposal has been given that the mover be called to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary say nay? The ayes have it. Senator Ayako Ochilo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm very grateful for the good remarks that members have made in favor of these amendments. I do not want to take more time. Members want to contribute to the motion as amended. I therefore rest my reply there and pray that members will unanimously and in a bipartisan way support the amendments. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Senators, let's now go back to, I want to put a question on the amendment that was brought by the Senator Ochilo Ayako. And I put a question that an amendment be put on the motion by adding the following words immediately after the words resolution made on 24th March 2021 appearing on the 7th line of the motion. That's provided that select committees of the Senate continue to hold virtual meetings pursuant to Standing Order 251A, and where necessary, hold physical meetings in absolute and strict compliance with COVID-19 protocols. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable Senators, we are now back to the motion as amended, and I would like now to propose the motion in the amended form. Thank you. In the amended form, the motion, I propose the motion that notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made on the 16th February 2021, that's on the approval of the Senate calendar, and on 24th March 2021, alteration of the Senate calendar, pursuant to Standing Order 29.4, the Senate resolves to further alter the Senate calendar regular sessions of the Senate in respect of Part 2, so as to adjourn on Tuesday, 30th March 2021, and to resume sittings on Tuesday, 11th May 2021, in accordance with the resolution made on the 24th March 2021, provided that select committees of the Senate continue to hold virtual meetings pursuant to Standing Order 251A, and when necessary, hold physical meetings in absolute and strict compliance with COVID-19 protocols, and that pursuant to Standing Order 31(3)A and B, the morning session of Tuesday, 30th March 2021 be held until the conclusion of business appearing on the order paper. Senator Haji Faria Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to contribute. And I want to affirm that COVID is real. Madam Speaker, the graveyards are filling up quickly. I think we should be very careful, given that we come from different counties. And if we continue meeting the way we are doing right now, we could be also super spreaders, besides risking our lives, Madam Speaker. 26% infection rate is not just a number, Madam Speaker. Those are people's lives, Madam Speaker. As we have all noticed, the death rate has increased from 1 or 2 deaths to 24, 18, I mean, that should be alarming to anybody who has sense of responsibility for the lives of Kenyans, Madam Speaker. And therefore, I think our president was taking his duty seriously by ensuring that the lockdown in the counties that have a greater number are locked down for now. And I'm sure if these infection rates come down and the curve flatten, I'm sure those 5 counties will be opened out for business. And then I was hearing that Mama Mboga can't get supplies of mbogas. I thought that the rules in terms of transport for essential things have not been revised. I didn't see it anywhere in the communique that was shared in terms of our president's message, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, if you go to Langata Cemetery today, you will see the number of graves for the Muslims have increased. So has the Christian graves. Knowing that even most of the Christians don't bury, the ones who die in Nairobi go to shags, but still, you see that the number has gone high, Madam Speaker. Apologies, I withdraw. They go to their home counties to bury. But but even then, the graveyards are also increasing. So that shows the gravity of this matter, Madam Speaker. And sometimes I tend to feel, even the people who die of COVID, all of them are even not in the country statistics. Sometimes they just die for other, people assume they died for other ailments, but they still could have died from COVID. Because from the normal time to now, you will see the difference. Even those the side that is marked for COVID is totally different from the other side, but yet even the other side is also moving, Madam Speaker. And then I had assertions that the President directed Parliament. I just went back to read his speech, Madam Speaker. He said with concurrence with the Parliament leadership. I do not see how with concurrence can be translated to direction, Madam Speaker. So I think when we communicate some of these things, I think let us put the right communication forward, Madam Speaker. We have moved from a position whereby, Madam Speaker, people were saying, who knows anybody who has gotten COVID? From people who are dying, who are your relatives, who are your friends, who are people you have been, you just spoke to the other day and they are gone today. So, Madam Speaker, this is a very serious issue. Madam Speaker, and I also support the motion as amended because, like, if we continue holding virtual meetings, as you remember, most of our bills, because of lack of concurrence, they were returned back to Senate, majority of the bills. And it will be tragedy if the committees don't handle some of these bills, and we leave this House having sponsored like more than 4 bills, and none of it goes through. And Madam Speaker, but if the virtual sitting continues, then the committees will finish their work in terms of the bills, and then once we open, it's just a matter of debating and passing those bills. And then, Madam Speaker, as Finance Committee, there are 2 bills that needs to go through. For example, the DORA and the CARA. Both are very important for counties in terms of financing. And as we approach towards the financial year, then if the committees don't handle those issues, it means that then it will waste our time and that things will not move as quickly. And therefore, the passage of budget will be delayed. And as a result, we will not have budgets on time the way it should be. Madam Speaker, and I believe because virtual sittings have no risk, people can just join from their houses. Therefore, cross-infection of people will not happen if we are contributing to committee work through virtual sitting, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I support the main motion as well as the amendment, Madam Speaker. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mogeni. Eric Okongo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to support
the motion that is on the floor to the effect that we alter our sittings so that we adjourn from the 30th of March 2021 and resume our sittings on 11th of May 2021. Madam Speaker, I first want to begin by trying to understand that what His Excellency the President did was to request and persuade Parliament to assist the President in putting in place measures that can assist in stopping the transmission of COVID-19. I don't think, Madam Speaker, the President was in any way trying to direct Parliament on how to conduct its business. Now, Madam Speaker, the main reason why we want to adjourn our sittings is simply because we want to assist in stopping the transmission of COVID-19, Madam Speaker. And we are also trying to heed to the warnings that science is telling us. And Madam Speaker, what the scientists are saying is that the more you have physical interaction, the more the risk of exposing yourself to contracting COVID-19. It's that simple. We can choose to listen to science, or we can choose to ignore what science is telling us. And Madam Speaker, because of the devastating effects we have seen from this invisible enemy called COVID-19, I beg that we give a chance and listen to science. Madam Speaker, in my county, just this morning, we were burying somebody who died from COVID-19. On Friday, and these are people we know, on Friday, we are burying another resident of Nyamira who passed from COVID-19. So this virus is with us, and it's causing devastating effect on our people. Madam Speaker, as leaders, we need to lead by example. Madam Speaker, if you saw the reaction to the statement that was issued by the President, there were a number of organizations that wanted to challenge the decision by the President, and they are waiting to see what action we take as Senate. The church is waiting, Madam Speaker. And if you read online postings, they were asking if the Senate can hold its sessions, why not the church? So, Madam Speaker, if we make the decision to adjourn today, there will be a trickle effect. Other bodies like our brothers in mosques, our brothers in church, and even by extension, people who run bars, they were asking, I mean, we watch these senators in Senate meeting, why are we being stopped from having our fun? So really, this is trying to act as responsible citizens and trying to show leadership. I was watching CNN this morning. Madam Speaker, in Australia, a state called Gold Coast, Brisbane, only had 3 cases, just 3. And the Premier of that state issued a decree stopping any movement from that state to the other states of Australia. Just 3 cases. But for us, I was watching the news yesterday, and we are being told our positivity rate is at 26%. Madam Speaker, if you listen to the scientists, they are telling us if we don't put in place measures to control transmission, we will watch Kenyans dying on the corridors of our hospitals. Our ICU beds are full to capacity. And that is the reality that we should tell our people. They are full to capacity. The neighboring counties have got no capacity to receive patients from the county of Nairobi, Madam Speaker. More worrying.
Time up.
So just to sum up, 1 minute, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, even if you watch the updates we are getting from our professional bodies, Law Society of Kenya, we are losing members daily, Madam Speaker. So the situation is not looking good, and I plead with members that let's lead by example, let's sacrifice, let's adjourn, let's observe how this virus behaves in the next 30 days so that we can also lead by example to other Kenyans. I support, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Amos Wako.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. As somebody who has gone through this terrible thing and has been lucky to survive, I fully support this motion. In fact, I believe, Madam Speaker, that this is an action that should even have been taken sometimes before to save the lives of people. Many people have passed away, many of them close to each one of us. As the Chair of Legal has stated, if you look at the minutes of the Law Society of Kenya, every day, at least one advocate are passing on after short illness. And the word short illness really stands for COVID these days, unless maybe it's heart attack, but it's mostly COVID. Madam Speaker, sir, we are asking that we adjourn until 11th of May, meetings of the committees. As we all know, a lot of work is done in the committees. And it's only appropriate that during the intervening period between now and the 11th of May, Parliament in its oversight role, particularly through the committees, will be able to see how the various actions did to deal with the COVID pandemic are being implemented or are being violated. Madam Speaker, I know the Committee on Public Health will have some work to do in this regard. I know the Committee on Transport and Infrastructure will have some work to do in this regard. I know the Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations will have some work to do in this regard. I know the Committee on Education. The Minister for Education is moving all over the country, issuing statements here and there. He's a very active minister, and I like his activity. But the committee should be there also to comment and add value to what he's saying. I know the Committee of Finance, and I know the Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations. Madam Speaker, most of the work of this House is through committees. And it's appropriate that between now and the 11th of May, something should be happening so that when we resume on 11th of May, and assuming that the situation would have become better and we can continue our sitting, at least we would have some quality work to do. In other words, between now and then, the committees will be preparing work for us to start on 11th of May. And they'll be doing so in a manner in which the COVID protocols are being observed virtually. So, Madam Speaker, I do support the motion as amended by my friend Ochilo Ayako. I didn't know Ochilo, you are a student of Mbukomen. And that's why sometimes there are some mistakes you are making in the law. I know now where they came from, and I had to correct you on some of those things. So I now know where those things came from. With those few remarks, I support.
Senator Hargura Godana. Not there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I'd like to support this motion as amended. Madam Speaker, we all know that COVID is real, and the effect of the third wave is being felt, especially in the identified parts of this country, the 5 counties. And we have to assist the President in ensuring that the lives of Kenyans are preserved and actions are taken. Madam Speaker, as it has been said, the executive is still performing its duties, so as the legislature, we still have to perform ours to oversight the executive, because we know in the first wave, when we suspended our sittings, that is when things like the KEMSA scandal took place. So this time we need to be vigilant, and we need to take the actions which are required by adjourning our sittings. But still, because Senate works mainly through the committees, we have the plenary, then we have the committees, and the plenary is the one which you need to suspend, because that's where the in-person contact is taking place. But we need to concentrate oversight role now in the committees, and that is why I support the amendments which expressly states that the committees can continue working virtually, so that we don't suspend our oversight role, but we oversight in a way that is in compliance with the current situation. Technology is there, we have been using it, so let's have that one and let's continue doing the oversight. Madam Speaker, also, when the President announced the measures, there was this question which came up that yes, now the 5 counties which are said to be disease-invested zones have been kind of closed off. What happened to the livelihoods of the affected Kenyans? In the first wave, there was the raft of measures like suspension of or reduction of the tax. There was the issue of the loans repayment being rescheduled, and we know that already the governor of Central Bank has said that that period, that window is closing by, I think, next week. So what happens? Now we have gone back to that situation. Those who are trying to pay those loans are already now, again, being taken back to the situation where their business have closed down. So I urge the President, while implementing these measures, also let's come up with a way of cushioning Kenyans so that they don't get doubly affected. Already since March last year, we have been going through this pandemic, and at least the businesses were recovering when the economy was opened up, and now we are going back to the same lockdown. Restaurants have been closed, working hours have been reduced, transport business have already been affected because of this lockdown. So let it not end at the lockdown, because this thing will not sort itself out. Let's take care of also how the Kenyans will be affected, especially in these 5 counties, by reinstituting again the safety measures, the cushioning measures which were there in the first wave, so that we don't lose our livelihoods while trying to save lives, because at the end of the day, we have to be sensitive to the lives of Kenyans. And other parts in this world, you will find governments are coming up with very critical, very clear measures, like cushioning for job loss. We may not be in a position as an economy to do that, but we need to make sure that we also cushion our citizens the much we can. Thank you. I support the motion as amended.
Senator, I don't see Malala, Senator Malala. That could be his nephew, but definitely not him. Okay, Senator Ongeri Samson Kegongo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think history is replete of many reminders of where we have come from and where we're going. In the 14th century, Asia and Europe were ravaged by a plague that killed so many people, to an extent that the plagues that appeared later, so those of us who went to school much later, many years later, were able to be told if you kill one rat and you produce in the school, that was something that was very positive. In 1957 and 1968, we had the flu pandemics that appeared globally. Not to mention the HINI pandemic of 2009, which was a swine flu pandemic that appeared and devastated a lot of populations worldwide. In 1918 to 1919, there was the Spanish flu, not because it happened in Spain, but because it was nomenclatured in that level. The outstanding factor, Madam Speaker, is that it killed 20 to 40 million people. We now have COVID-19 of 2019-20, which has ravaged the whole world. So the question is, what is a pandemic? It's not an epidemic, because epidemic is confined to a small little population or community, but this is a global event. It may occur the whole country or the whole world. And therefore, the COVID-19 fits that description of a global pandemic which is infectious, which is spreading, and unless some very stringent measures are put in place, the entire population will be decimated. And we don't have to joke about it, we don't have to argue against it. So then, having defined what a pandemic is, being an infectious disease, unless some measures are taken into account, have been put in place, we'll lose so many people. That's why I'm fully persuaded. First of all, as a professional, as a medic, I'm fully persuaded to support the amended form of this motion, because it means so much for the population of this country. We cannot continue fooling around. We cannot continue joking around with an infectious disease that's already killing thousands of our people and pretend as if we're heroes that will be able to reverse the events. We will not be able to reverse the events. And I think the best thing that we can have is to be able to operationalize the Public Health Act. And for the sake of clarity, the Public Health Act, Chapter 242, Part 3, Section 19, 17, 18, 19, and 20 deals with notification of an infectious disease. Indeed, the Ministry of Health has done so. Part 4 deals with the prevention and suppression of this scourge. That's where we are. And I think the best thing that the Senate can do is to be part of this fight against this pandemic. And I fully support the government efforts by the President and the Ministry of Health. They must be fully supported by this House while performing their duties. That's why we are allowing the select committees to be in session so they can be able to check the excesses, particularly when the resources are being shifted from normal budgets to be able to deal with this pandemic by its nature being a flu, an epidemic, an infectious disease. And that's why this House must at all times, in all the times,
Senator Sakaja Johnson Arthur.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this motion as amended by the Senate. Madam Speaker, tough times call for tough measures. Throughout last year, I think our country received a lot of accolades for the management of this pandemic, as opposed to many other countries, not just in the region, but world over. And Madam Speaker, I think at some point, we let our guard down because we've been doing well. In terms of managing the disease, in terms of keeping the numbers down, and even in terms of the kind of health care that we were able to get. At that point, Madam Speaker, we had the ad hoc committee. And the ad hoc committee of the Senate, which I was chairing, was the one institution, or rather body representing this institution, that had a bird's overview, a bird's eye view over the entire, all aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic in this country. And Madam Speaker, we interacted with all areas, economic issues, the health issues, the social issues, security, human rights. And you could tell at that time that even the executive was really taking the cue that the House was setting throughout that period, even until the committee ended its mandate under Senator Kasanga. Madam Speaker, the concern that there still needs to be oversight must be stated. That even at this point, because I support the President's initiative to lock down the country, in as much as it is difficult. And I think we all need to understand that it is not in any government's interest to do a lockdown. One, if you look at the level of taxes that have gone down, no government would want to reduce how much money it's collecting. No government would want to restrict trade. When we were doing the budget policy statement the other day, we considered the projected economic growth, which is very low, and what has happened in the last financial year. So even that tells you that these are desperate times. The number of deaths, Madam Speaker, we've lost friends. In fact, tomorrow I'm burying a friend, Antonio Leting in Kitale. We've lost friends over the past few days, many. In fact, it's no longer news. These days, you wait and hear today who has died. Yeah? These measures needed to be taken. Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate, and I've had certain colleagues saying, because our standing orders are clear, I think standing order 100 or 101, that a member must be responsible for a statement of fact. Nowhere in the President's statement did he direct Parliament. The President did not direct Parliament. He cannot direct Parliament, and he did not. On top of saying with concurrence with the speakers, he asked that the houses then take cue and use their procedures to consider an adjournment. And that is what we are doing. It is easy, people like coming to just throw stones sometimes at the President, but we cannot allow that, because that is not what he did. And we saw our speakers there. I don't think they were being told off. But even in this House, we've lost friends. We've lost members in the National Assembly. Madam Speaker, we've lost many people. And so what we need to be talking about at this point is then how do we as leaders play our part in ensuring that the common mwananchi is safeguarded at this point. There are many areas that we need to look at. Madam Speaker, as we speak today, I am dealing with almost 4,000 Nairobians evicted in Njiru, Kwari, ongoing demolitions during a pandemic, Madam Speaker. When you talk to those people and try to commiserate, they ask you which kind of government is it that is evicting us at this point. We need to be able to have our committees to look into that issue, Madam Speaker. And that is why I like Senator Ochilo Ayako's amendment. We need to be able to look at that, those demolitions in Njiru, in Kasarani constituency, in my county, Madam Speaker. We need to look at these people who have been in the, especially hospitality industry, the taxi drivers, the bouncers, the DJs, they need to be cushioned. Madam Speaker, I'd like to inform the House, I know my time is going as I finish. The bill that we did last year the pandemic response and management bill is still very much needed. It has been republished and it has taken
1 minute.
Sorry, my county not only is it just worst hit, Madam Speaker, but by virtue of the work we did, this bill is still very much needed. Remember when we were doing our oversight, we went around counties and we agreed on the number of ICU beds to be increased. Because we lowered our guard as a country, today there are no ICU beds. Last week I was struggling to find ICU beds for some Nairobians. Even talking to the CEO of Kenyatta University Hospital could not help, even the chair. So we need to pick up that bill again. I hope when we come back we can pass it now properly. We've agreed with the National Assembly how to deal with it, because we must know how to deal with the pandemic, because it is not a normal occurrence, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we need to make sure that the police are not harassing people in this area of lockdown, and my county is one of those areas, and that the flow of food, Nairobi, there is no agriculture going on in terms of that can feed the entire county. There's agriculture, but not the level that can feed the entire county. We need to make sure that flow of food is going on, and that when schools come back, the school feeding program is restarted, just as we had said before we've done this. So I support the adjournment of the House, Madam Speaker, and I hope that as chairs of committees, and I chair a committee as well, that we will not lower the guard of oversight, because any executive would not want a parliament that is oversighting them at this point. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Makori Beatrice Komboka.
Asante, Bi Speaker. Ningependa kuunga mkono hii mjadala ya kusitishwa kwa bunge hili mpaka mwezi ujao. Bi Speaker, ukweli kuna janga kubwa la corona, na ni wakati mwafaka hili bunge tuende kwa likizo kidogo, na ambapo tutakuwa tukienda kwa likizo ni wakati wa kamati sana sana kama ya kamati ya afya ambayo mimi nashiriki hapo, tuweze kuangalia hizi vaccines ambazo zimekuja wakati huu, kama wananchi wa Kenya wanaweza kupata hizi vaccines kwa urahisi. Chanjo, Madam Speaker, unajua
kwa Kiswahili inaitwa chanjo.
Chanjo. Bi Speaker, ni vizuri pia tujifunze hiki Kiswahili, lazima tujivunie. Na kwa wakati huo, Bi Speaker, hizi kata ambazo rais wa nchi amesema kuwa ziwe kwenye lockdown, ni wakati muhimu hizo kata waweze kuangalia wafanyabiashara wale wadogo, wawache kuchukua ushuru kwa hao wafanyikazi, kwa sababu kazi zao zinafungwa wakati wa mapema, si kama kitambo. Na Bi Speaker, ni wakati kamati zetu zile ambazo zitakuwa zikihudumu kama kamati ya afya, wakati ambapo tunapomuita waziri lazima aelewe ya kuwa wakati huu ni wakati wa dharura. Lazima wananchi washughulikiwe na waweze pia kukuja kwenye kamati wajibu maswala ambayo utakayouliza. Bi Speaker, ningehimiza wakati tunapokwenda mashinani, hata sisi wabunge tuweze kuongea na wananchi wetu, tueleze manufaa ya chanjo hii. Waende wachukue chanjo, na tuweze pia kukatiza zile mikutano ambazo tuko nazo katika maofisi. Bi Speaker, naunga mkono huu mjadala wa kusitishwa kwa bunge mpaka mwezi ujao. Asante sana Bi Speaker.
Kiswahili sanifu kweli. Senator Langat Christopher Andrew.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would like also to congratulate Senator Kwamboka on matters to do with that language. Congratulations. So may I make my contribution to this particular motion as amended, Madam Speaker? It is so important that we make this particular serious move in our country, taking into account that our country is facing a very big challenge at the moment. More so is when it comes to our villages. This pandemic has really taken toll of most of the people. I want to say that in our county, for example, burial has really increased in number to the point that I had to inquire from our Ministry of Health in our county what was happening. It is interesting that even the reagents for testing this particular COVID, most of the counties are running short of it, and most of the dead are just getting buried as normal. The hospitals are not signaling people on those particular people who have died of COVID so that they can be handled differently. So we are in a very serious situation, Madam Speaker, and I want to say that I'm also happy that though adjournment is taking place, we still remain an oversight institution in this particular country. So the committees will continue doing their work seriously through virtual meetings, and sometimes, as it is in amendment, that wherever it calls for physical appearance on serious matters, it should be accommodated. I want to say that despite the fact that we understand the independence of this House, separation of powers as it is indicated in the Constitution, but nevertheless, we are talking about a serious matter that every one of us, right from the judiciary, not judiciary, from executive to the legislative, we must take it seriously. Health is a very important matter, and I would like to encourage the government, Madam Speaker, to emphasize on two things at this particular moment. Testing must be increased to test most of the people, and also even for those who have died without the knowledge whether it is COVID or any other disease, they must be tested to ensure that if people are dying of COVID, they should be buried with caution, Madam Speaker. Another thing is vaccination. This one should be increased to make sure that most of our citizens are vaccinated. We are happy it has started with us as we are labeled as the super spreaders. That will really help our people. So I want to say that I support seriously this particular, is it finished? This particular motion with amendment, because it will help this country greatly. And also, I want to say that it is so important that we are still independent as an institution. That cannot be dictated from another quarter. So this amendment shows that we are still a powerful and independent institution that should be respected by other organs of the government. I support this particular amendment, motion with amendment, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Masitsa Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion this afternoon as amended by the Senate. Madam Speaker, our country is right now struggling in managing the pandemic. And as it stands now, as leaders, we need to lead by example. Madam Speaker, the Senate, as leaders, we do not need to work hard to adopt anything that can assist this country and can assist our people. The COVID is here with us. The COVID has gone with the majority of our friends, majority of our people, and right now, you never know who can be a victim. As that, we know that the president took his own initiative, and we should not misunderstand the president. The president has passed here as a member of parliament, and if we sit in the executive as the president of Kenya, it doesn't. We had nowhere where he said that he was directing the parliament. But as people were trying to put it, we are coming up with all this legislation because we understand that we need to make policies, and we need to make policies that can assist people of Kenya to evade this particular pandemic. And therefore, as we stand here, again, I want to urge the members that we adopt this motion of amendment and alteration of the calendar in an amended form, and urge the people of Kenya that we should be advisors of the president through legislation as our duty and a mandate. We have had the president and we have even from the most social medias or in our social medias, where people are not taking seriously this condition. It is very unfortunate that leaders are part of that. We need to actually move away from misleading the public as leaders. We need to be advisors in our communities, in our own country. But I want to urge also the president that as he considers this, the lockdown in the 5 counties, let him apply those incentives that he did to the country when it had a lockdown, especially in taxation areas, and even the banks. We need to urge those private partners that are now sucking our young youth people, that they need to desist from that. If we only jointly look at this pandemic, that it has come to hit all of us, then we cannot be doing what the other companies are doing by sucking the young people, that because they really do not have what to keep them going in terms of a living. Also, Madam Speaker, I would like the President, if possible, to know that Kenyans in Nairobi, statistics and the 4 other counties, that the statistics are reality.
Order, Senator. I see an intervention from Senator Farhia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think let us reduce the time to 3 minutes, because I think there's a lot of still interest and time is not on our side, and there are so many businesses still to transact in the House. If that is possible, and I want Senator Komboka to second me with your permission.
Madam Speaker.
Senator Olekina.
Madam Speaker, I had to stand and question my good sister, but I think we should be, this is a house of record, and I think my sister should have quoted the standing order, and also our standing orders are quite clear, that before the commencement of any motion, that is when a senator can rise and seek for a limitation of time. Just standing and saying, I think we should, is not really appropriate. So I think, in my view, it would be proper if we were to talk about adjournment and we're discussing, let's allow senators to be able to express their views, because we don't know whether they are supporting or not supporting. This is a matter which you still have to go on division. So, Madam Speaker, I would just want to request that when my colleagues stand, they have to remember that when the motion was being moved, it was quite clear that this motion will proceed, until it is completed, So I think it would be proper for us to allow senators to address the matters, and we maintain, our standing orders. Let's follow them to the letter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Naomi, can you try to conclude?
Madam Speaker, I wish, with the interruption that was there, I get my time and even plus, because this is a very important motion we are discussing about. And we cannot be thinking about any other matter in this country currently. And I feel so bad when people want to come up with other issues that are important to themselves and not important as the COVID right now in this country. COVID is more important than any other thing. If we are discussing about life and death, allow us to discuss it now. Madam Speaker, I want to continue or conclude by saying that we have had the counties of this country, some counties misusing the COVID money. We have had some individuals being billionaires of this COVID money. I want to take this time and say that I stand with the Senate Health Committee with the policies that they passed in this House, that it can adopt it, and they can bring that meeting here, that report here. We adopt it so that it become part of legislation, in this country, so that we can tame some of those avenues that people are misusing such important funds in this country. Madam Speaker, I want to conclude again by saying that we have had the media or the Minister of Health call for people, some of the companies or people or some of the facilities, to return the gas cylinders, which are part of the commodities that are supposed to assist in averting the deaths in this country through COVID-19. I want to urge those partners or those people or those facilities that are holding the gas cylinders, please let us be considerate of other individuals in this country that need to use those gas cylinders so that they can be filled, because we know the gas or the gas that is filled into those containers is important right now, and is one of the important commodity in this country right now as the country is experiencing the pandemic. Madam Speaker, I will leave this time for other members to contribute, and I thank you very much. And I want to say again and conclude that this matter is important. It is not a matter of any other business, but this matter needs to be discussed, even if it means midnight. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Milgo Alice Chepkori.
I was lucky. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance to also support this motion as amended. And I want to say that the President of this country did not actually direct Parliament as many people have alluded, because I listened to the speech myself, and he had said he was requesting the two speakers from the two houses to actually check, or rather settle down and discuss with the members of Parliament so that they can amend accordingly. Madam Speaker, our country is in a very challenging period right now. We are losing very many people, and the ones that are being recorded are even fewer, because in most cases sometimes we have had deaths and nobody has ever known whether that was COVID-19. Madam Speaker, as the President said, despite the fact that this House has a lot of work, it is important to choose life as opposed to actually imagining that our economy will go down, because without healthy people, the economy will still remain very low. Madam Speaker, I want to say that now that the committees will have a leeway to be able to continue with their work virtually, and in extreme conditions, they can even, in this case, meet physically, although in this case, they must ensure that they follow COVID rules. I think this motion then shall go a long way to ensure that we contain this particular spread of COVID-19. We are seeing that the numbers are rising. It is just recently when we were told that the percentage is at 20%. Just yesterday we are being told it is 26%. Nobody knows. Maybe by the close of business today, we'll be told that it is over 30%. And in this case, we all know that as more and more patients become affected with COVID-19, we have our health facilities being overstretched. We'll have the government facilities not being able to contain. And for that reason, I think altering our calendar is a way we'll set an example to the rest of the country to know that this is a very serious matter. Madam Speaker, this amended form will further actually enhance the work of the committees, more specifically the Health Committee. I think a few minutes ago we were told that some 241 billion shillings has gone out to COVID issues. And in any case, because of the fact that our ad hoc committee on COVID was in this case came to a conclusion, what it is that we need the Health Committee to take up the challenge and ensure that they work in the same way as the COVID committee did, because during that time you could follow very seriously about thematic matters that they had set up. And they were able to inform us what is happening in security, what is happening even based on social issues. And in this case, there is nothing wrong if Health Committee will be able to take up that and then be able to tell us how much money now is going to the counties, or even how much of this 2.1 billion was used in the national government and where has it gone to. Madam Speaker, I want to actually support this particular motion based on the fact that these counties that are being locked down, in fact the numbers were so high, so that although we are saying maybe there is still a lot of COVID going on in other counties, I think these 5 counties were having a serious challenge and would have wished if there was any ability by the government in this case to ensure that there is very serious testing in these counties. In addition to that, a lot of vaccination to take place, and for that matter, people being ensured that they take up the vaccination. It is a challenge that, Madam Speaker, when we saw 1 million vaccines, we thought it was going to end in just less than 1 month, but then people are taking it and approaching it with a lot of caution. We want to encourage people that vaccination is important. Without vaccination, very many people will die. And we want to encourage that wherever those counties that have already received the vaccine should be able to take up that vaccine. We also want to encourage the government to further actually look at the very needy and vulnerable people in the 5 counties.
Senator Ndwiga Peter Njeru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this time I want to support the motion as amended, and Mr. Speaker, also join my colleagues, those of us who actually listened to the address of the President, because the President did not, and I want to support Senator Milk, the President did not order Parliament. The President suggested the Parliament should look at its timetable and also see where it could fit, if and suggested that if they could recess, it would be good. And he suggested the same also for the judiciary. Madam Speaker, people are very quick to judge, sometimes without fast reasoning as to and weighing the source of the information they get. Being a president, Madam Speaker, is not easy. You have to balance between economy and the lives of your people. And it is in that respect, Madam Speaker, that the President did suggest that the counties which have been overwhelmed by this disease be locked down for some time. I'm very happy. I know people have said that they should have given the period, said what period it is that he has locked down these places. Madam Speaker, normally he locks down 1 month or 2 months. This time he didn't. And I am very sure, Madam Speaker, that the fear of the government was that during this Easter period, people are going to flock and merry-make and spread this disease wildly. So I will not be surprised. I'm not sure, it's not that I know, I'm not be surprised if the President after Easter says now you can go back to your normal business, and I hope he does that. Madam Speaker, my worry is that those of us who go outside Nairobi, and even when you have curfew and all these other requirements of the Ministry of Health, the behavior of Kenyans out there is far from what you would expect a people in the midst of an epidemic to be behaving. Madam Speaker, you go to our counties, you go to our markets, people are walking without masks. In the evening, Madam Speaker, when it is curfew time, the police are busy with bar owners locking bars and collecting whatever stipends they can collect from bar owners, and they're the least concerned about the curfew and the implications of health of the people. So, Madam Speaker, I am now requesting the police to also, or the administration, the provincial administration in our counties, to up their acts, so that, Mr. Speaker, we stop the escalation of this pandemic. You look at matatus, Madam Speaker, and only last week I did see a matatu that had fellows, matatu meant to carry 13 people. It must have been carrying more than 26 people. And it had just passed through a police roadblock. Madam Speaker, how many people are we going to kill in this country so that we can understand that the proceeds of corruption will not help? And Madam Speaker, those policemen who are letting these things happen, I am sure some of them have been affected, if not infected, by the disease. And I do hope that, Mr. Speaker, although you cannot wish this thing on anybody, I do hope, Madam Speaker, that they will be grown up enough to know that this pandemic is bad for the entire country, is bad enough even for themselves. Madam Speaker,
Senator Cherargei Samson Kiprotich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, two things, or three, because in the interest of time, is one, I will not be in the business of defending the president. I think he has enough defenders on what he said or what he meant. One, there are many reservations that the president did lock 5 counties, which is over 10 million, slightly thereabout Kenyans. Two things that the president failed or deliberately failed to tell Kenyans. One is how we will cushion the vulnerable. Because, Madam Speaker, according to Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, in 2020, during the first wave of COVID, 1.7 million Kenyans lost their jobs. And these are mambambogas, the waiters, the waiteress, the people who sell mahindi choma, the people who are low-income families. The president did not provide a cushion safety net to these families that they are suffering, Madam Speaker. And therefore, that is very sad, and we would have expected the president to learn one or two things since the incept of COVID pandemic. Number two, Madam Speaker, most of these matatus that ply within these lockdown counties, most of them, Madam Speaker, are matatus that are borrowed loans. These cars are using loans, Madam Speaker, and yet the president, you remember the issue of tax relief, tax exemption, loan restructuring, Madam Speaker, was done away with. So we would have expected the government, Madam Speaker, to order commercial banks and other money lending institutions to restructure loan, especially to the people that have borrowed. Remember, Madam Speaker, even these eateries, these establishments that we have, hospitality industry, most of them are running on loan borrowing, Madam Speaker, and we would have expected that they should be tax reliefs, they should be tax exemptions, they should be the way Governor Mutua of Machakos have done. And I think, Madam Speaker, that is the way to try and cushion Kenyans, especially through loan restructuring. Madam Speaker, the fourth point I want to make is on the mass testing and vaccinations. We received 1.2 million thereabout vaccines, where around 100,000 Kenyans have been vaccinated as we talk today, Madam Speaker. The president has not requested for supplementary money from the National Assembly so that he can be able to fight. Madam Speaker, we should be able to vaccinate free of charge. Every 47.5 million Kenyans, Madam Speaker, must be given free of charge vaccination, be it the one that comes from Russia, AstraZeneca, or Moderna from US, so that all Kenyans can have an opportunity to receive free vaccination. That is 47.5 million. What is the master plan? Even as we today agree that we might go on adjournment or not, what is the exit strategy? The strategy, Madam Speaker, will not be about lockdowns and curfews. You are just delaying the spread of COVID. But what is the master plan that the executive has that needs complementary support from the judiciary and parliament going into the future, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, That is why as Parliament, even as we go on recess, we have agreed that the committees can function. But I want to challenge the Health Committee that even when we come on occasionally back to the House, they should be able to provide timely updates on interventions, on the master plan, on the way out, except and about. If I saw a bishop from Peva Church, knows that you have better opportunities, more other strategies than lockdowns and curfews, Madam Speaker, and therefore I want to challenge the President that this is the right time to provide leadership. They say, I think there is a saying by the former Prime Minister of Britain, that the person who matters is the person who is on the ring, who has sweat, who has the blood, and who is in the thick of things, and that is when leadership needs. The fourth point, Madam Speaker, I want to make is on the police brutality. I want to ask the police, even as they implement lockdowns and curfews, this is not a license of human rights abuses. You remember Kenya was singled out during the first wave of pandemic, that more people were being killed by police brutality than even the COVID itself. So, Madam Speaker, I want to challenge the police that they should stop this police brutality. Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to contribute on this motion.
Senator Mudhama Agnes Kavindu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this altered calendar of the Senate. I want to say, first of all, I think when the President wrote what he wrote or said what he said, he did not command, but gave a suggestion that the House can discuss, and that's why we are discussing it, Madam Speaker. And I want to say we should, even as we go on this session, we should think also of how our people are going to be protected. I just finished my campaigns, Madam Speaker, as you know, and most of the people in the villages cannot even afford a mask, cannot even afford a sanitizer. Even if we are doing whatever we are doing, we should also think of how the counties will supply these people with masks, sanitizers, and also educate them on how to take precautions, because majority of them are just ignorant. And also, most of them now, as we speak now, are saying that they have no food even to eat, they have nothing to use. So we should think of all those things, even as we think of the 214 billion that my fellow senator talked about. And with this kind of money, we should, our people should be able to get the vaccines that they need, and they should also get the masks and the sanitizers, even as we educate on them. Madam Speaker, with this, I support this changed motion. Thank you.
Senator Inima Gertrude.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this motion in its amended form. And I must tell Kenyans that I want to commend the President for his statement, and it must be very clear that the President's statement was not an obligatory, statement when he was actually talking about Parliament. It was very clear that the President knows very well the role of the tripartite arm of government in ensuring the smooth running of the country, and that is why the statement he made was actually a request that he requested the two speakers to see how this can be fast-tracked. And if Kenyans can remember very well and flash back, it is very clear that the President came up with a raft of measures when Corona first came, simply because he really empathized with Kenyans and wanted to see how Kenyans can very well be helped through these corona issues. So it must be very clear in the minds of Kenyans and everyone else, and even parliamentarians, that the president was actually well-meaning and wanted and still wants Parliament to work together in this talk of corona. And it was very clear also that the president was able to walk his talk. He ensured that he even went for the jab together with his family. And this is really, a message to Kenyans that COVID is real. We must be alive to the fact that yes, it is real, and we have to see how to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and also Kenyans. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that as even we are addressing the issue of COVID, the amendment in this House is for the purpose of ensuring service delivery to Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, it is very clear that committees are obligated to take issues and pursue issues that come to Parliament for the purpose of ensuring that we are actually feeding Kenyans and we are even listening to Kenyans. And Honorable Speaker, the issue of virtual meetings, in the Senate is very good because it will help also parliamentarians listen to what Kenyans are saying and see how to help Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. And I know even as I stand here, persons with disabilities, wherever they are, they're really wondering what will become of them. And I know that questions will come to this House to see how persons with disabilities can be cushioned, can be helped during this time. And Honorable Speaker, I want to suggest also, even as we talk about the long recess, it would be paramount also for persons with disabilities to be considered in getting the jab, Honorable Speaker, because they are also vulnerable, and they can easily, succumb to COVID, Honorable Speaker. And these are some of the questions we'll be asking in the Zoom meetings. What are county governments actually doing to ensure that persons with disabilities are cushioned, Honorable Speaker? So I want to say that I support this motion in its amended form, and I believe that the tripartite arm of the government will work together in ensuring that we combat the issue of coronavirus, Honorable Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity.
Senator Olekena, I'm told you already, it is on record that you did debate in the main motion, so you cannot speak to it again. So I proceed to call in Senator Chebeni. Mercy Chebeni.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also rise to support the motion as amended. To alter our calendar. I think it's a very important motion given the situation we are in. The third wave is not very pleasing, and we need to take necessary precautions, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, as a House, we have a duty to represent and undertake our oversight mandate. And as we are all aware that majority of our work is done under the committee level, and I'm glad that we are able now to continue with our virtual meetings, Madam Speaker, for oversight reasons. Madam Speaker, as you are aware, a lot of bills are still pending at the committee stage, and therefore it is very important that committees are able to undertake this critical mandate and ensure that these bills are passed. Madam Speaker, we have seen rather hard testimonies from our fellow senators who have gone through the COVID, and it's only wise that we therefore adjourn, Madam Speaker, so that we don't spread it among ourselves and also to our constituents, Madam Speaker. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I really think all of us should support this motion. Madam Speaker, I am seated next to Senator Kasanga, and she was just telling me that the Auditor General report on COVID funds was tabled here, and the mandate was given to the Health Committee to take a look at it and provide a report in this House, Madam Speaker. Therefore, it's very important that the Committee on Health take this matter seriously. We need to know how the funds were utilized. We need to understand where the funds went, how many ICU beds are there, how many, how are oxygen availed at our hospitals. And therefore, it's very important that the committee sits to look into the report and to look into the report of the Auditor General and give this House a better report on how the funds were utilized. Madam Speaker, I really support this motion, and I thank you.
I see no further requests, and I therefore call in the mover to reply. Senator Wamatangi.
Madam Speaker, I want to take the opportunity to thank members, Madam Speaker, for their contribution on this motion in its amended version. Madam Speaker, to note that probably for clarification and to ensure that there is no contradiction in the thoughts and minds of Kenyans, those who watched and followed, Madam Speaker, the passion by members of this House to have a say on how the lives of their people will be cared for in these trying times and tough times of COVID, Madam Speaker. The amendment brought about by Senator Ochilo Ayako and supported by all members on both sides of the House, Madam Speaker, is evidence that members are passionate about how the lives of Kenyans, whom they represent, and Madam Speaker, for avoidance of doubt, it is important to put it on record that indeed the only people who have a direct mandate on the question and say of how the health and lives of our people will be are elected members. And these members of this House fall in that category, Madam Speaker. Various suggestions have been made. And Madam Speaker, noteworthy of those suggestions is, for example, Madam Speaker, the thought that we should see this pandemic not as a one-off thing, and the plans that government has got in mitigating and ameliorating the concerns and the condition of Kenyans should be long-term. Thinking, Madam Speaker, for example, if we look at how we have dealt with the pandemic of HIV/AIDS, Madam Speaker, and since the 1980s, when the first cases of HIV/AIDS were detected in the country, up to today, Kenyans are still suffering from the same ravages of that virus. That, Madam Speaker, may be an implication, it may be a pointer, that probably COVID will be here to stay and stay long. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to laud the good thoughts by senators that government must think beyond tomorrow. Government must be thinking beyond the lockdown and beyond curfew and beyond adjournment of houses, Madam Speaker, so that then we would be asking ourselves, how do we address this situation without necessarily waiting for external help to be what is going to be our solution, Madam Speaker. I want to thank members also for their suggestions here, Madam Speaker, that in case there is any situation that may arise that will require members of this House to appear here in this House immediately and pass resolutions, Madam Speaker, that window is left open, that right and privilege of members of this House is not curtailed in any way, Madam Speaker. And indeed, the continued discussion and engagement of members of this House through committees will further enhance and ensure, cushion Kenyans, such that, Madam Speaker, whatever continues to happen can be debated by committees of this House, Madam Speaker. Indeed, as I conclude, Madam Speaker, I think it would be important, as we continue with our discussion, that we ask ourselves, how do we want to rest the case of our ad hoc committee on COVID-19? Is it time we rethought the idea of reintroducing, Madam Speaker, a specific committee that would be looking at the continued way we are dealing with COVID-19 as a country, Madam Speaker? And I want to remind Kenyans, Madam Speaker, that indeed there are countries who suffered worse than we have suffered. But as of today, they have managed to contain the pandemic. And you would go around countries, Madam Speaker, in Asia, specifically a country like China itself, where this virus is said to have emanated from. But they are proud to say that they have dealt with the pandemic to an extent that they can say that the infection rates are almost negligible. That is what we should be aiming to do, Madam Speaker, and the culture of continuing to ensure that continued discipline and personal discipline in dealing with COVID-19 must be the emphasis of the health sector of this country, Madam Speaker, and even of government. And as allowed the actions that has been taken by the Ministry of Health in the various moves that they have done, Madam Speaker, in putting up a fight against the virus, and also the action taken by the executive, the various and periodic updates that have been given, actions by His Excellency the President to ensure that he continually informs this country. And indeed, there are the leaders, Madam Speaker, who have been forefront. And I want to take the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to even thank members of this House. Because if you look at many platforms of social media, you can see several senators whose photos appear taking the vaccine, Madam Speaker, taking the jab. And we lead by example. And I'm sure, as most Kenyans first had doubt that are we ourselves taking the jab to show that, Madam Speaker, some of those rumors that were there out in the first place, that should be ignored. I want to allow those members that have taken the vaccine and urge the ones who have not, please do. And in conclusion, Madam Speaker, to say that because we have been told even when we went to take the vaccination that you'll have to take about 3 for you to attain levels that would be said medically to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 in case you got infected, Madam Speaker. We'll be thinking about those Kenyans who cannot afford to put a meal on their table today, Madam Speaker. And ask ourselves, what are we saying about them when they themselves have to deal with the same fate, with the same tragedy, with the same problem that we as members of Parliament, with the privileges that we have, that are facing? What will happen to that person in Mukuru slums, Madam Speaker? What will happen? What is the hope that we are giving to the person in Obunga slums in Kisumu, Madam Speaker? What are we telling Kenyans, Madam Speaker, who are expecting to have not only hope, but solutions, Madam Speaker? And that's why I want to allow the House, I want to allow members who have contributed to this motion, Madam Speaker, and urge all of us to stay vigilant, be wide-eyed, open, and, Madam Speaker, urge members to be ready to stand and act when necessary to ensure that we save and salvage our country and put COVID-19 behind and get to move our economy and our country and the work that we do forward, Madam Speaker. I reply, and Madam Speaker, I submit.
Ni mimi. Ulitoa pikipiki? Mlitani sitaomoka. Ni yako. Hii nduthi ni yangu. Niliwahi pale Quickbit. Quickbit? Quickbit imekuja kusaidia wananchi kama sisi. Nilinunua 399 shillings. Nilikuwa the